I paid $25,000 to save my parents' house from collapsing. Then they kicked my kids and me out on Christmas because my sister deserved the cabin more. I am 35 years old, female, and divorced with 2 children, ages 9 and 12. I work in technology and make solid money. Not a lot, but enough to help my family when they need it, which has been pretty much all the time for the past 4 years. Let me begin with some context because this did not happen immediately. My family has always had this strange relationship in which my younger sister Lily, 31, is regarded as if she can do no wrong, and I am expected to be the responsible one who solves everyone's problems. Lily dropped out of college twice, hasn't had a work in more than 6 months, and has been living rent-free with our parents for the past 5 years, with her boyfriend Ryan and their 3-year-old kid. Growing up, this preference was clear, but I assumed it would disappear when we reached adulthood. Nope. Lily received a larger bedroom, more clothes and a car when she reached 17, whereas I had to work at McDonald's to save for mine. When she became pregnant at the age of 28 and was not married, my parents threw her a baby shower that cost more than my wedding. When I got divorced, Mom's first concern was whether I could still afford to help with their bills. Our parents are both in their mid-60s. Dad works part-time at a hardware shop after being put off from his manufacturing job 4 years ago, and Mom hasn't worked since Lily returned home because she helps with childcare. Dad lost his job, and their finances have been a catastrophe ever since. But instead of Lily stepping up or moving out, they expect me to manage everything. I've been acting like an idiot. It began tiny in 2022. Mom called crying because they couldn't pay their mortgage. Dad was too proud to ask, she explained. But could I maybe help just this once? I sent $900. Then there were car repairs. Then came the medical bills when Dad suffered a small heart attack. It was always, just this once, and we'll pay you back when things get better. They never did. The pattern became predictable. Every month, there was a problem. The water heater died. The roof was leaking. The car needed new tires. Lily's daughter needed money for daycare. Each emergency was presented as life or death urgent, and I was the only solution they could come up with. I recall one especially low point when I had to cancel my son's birthday party at the trampoline park because Mom called sobbing, saying they were going to turn off the power. I used the $250 I had saved for his party and sent it to them instead. When I told my kid that we'd have to have his birthday at home with a grocery store cake, he just nodded and said, "It's okay, Mom. Maybe next year." That should have served as a wake-up signal. But Lily was pregnant again, and Mom insisted that I was the only one who could keep them afloat. This year alone, I've paid $4,800 in mortgage payments over 6 months, $3,200 for Dad's medical bills and medications, $2,100 for car repairs on both of their cars, $350 to keep their utilities from being turned off, $2,600 for home repairs after their basement flooded, $2,000 for groceries and miscellaneous expenses, and $6,500 for Lily's car when it finally died completely. That's $25,000, which I saved by working overtime, taking on freelance tasks, and basically having no social life. My own children haven't had a proper vacation in 3 years, since every extra dime goes into maintaining my parents' house from collapsing around Lily's family. What is the most aggravating part? Lily acts entitled to it. She never thanked me explicitly. When I paid for her automobile, she complained to her mother that I bought her a simple Honda instead of something finer. She stated, "If Lauren can afford to help, why can't she help properly?" When I covered their mortgage so they wouldn't lose their home, she wrote on Facebook about how family comes through when it counts, without saying that I was the family member coming through. Meanwhile, Ryan works around 25 hours per week at a gas station and spends the rest of his time playing video games in my parents' basement. Lily hasn't worked since moving back home, stating she has to focus on motherhood, as if single working mothers don't exist everywhere. The breaking point talk began months ago. I began to express to Mom that I was having difficulty keeping up with all of their financial needs. I wasn't saying no, I was simply stating that I couldn't generate money out of thin air. I suggested Lily get a part-time job once. Even 20 hours a week could help with bills. Mom's reply: "Lily is dealing with postpartum depression. She can't handle the stress of working right now." Lily's postpartum sadness appeared to be highly selective. She had the energy to go shopping with friends, post on social media all the time, and arrange lavish birthday parties for her daughter, but working was too stressful. I tried talking to Dad about it, hoping he'd be more pragmatic. "Dad, I can't keep covering major expenses every month. My own kids need things too." He answered, "Well, Lily's kids are younger. They need more help right now. As if my 9 and 12-year-olds didn't require clothes that fit, school materials, and the odd exciting activity. But the final straw was Christmas supper. I'd been looking forward to this for weeks. My children were eager to see their grandparents and cousins. I brought a $250 ham, prepared 3 side dishes from scratch, and spent $150 on gifts for everyone. I also purchased Lily's daughter a $60 toy kitchen, which she had been requesting. Because, despite everything, I adore my niece, and it is not her fault that her mother is entitled. We arrived around 2 p.m., and everything appeared normal at first. The kids were playing, Dad was watching football, and Mom was fussing in the kitchen. But I noticed Lily was especially smug about something, and Ryan kept giving me strange looks, as if he knew something I didn't. I should have suspected something was up when Lily showed me her nails. She'd had an expensive gel manicure that morning. "Early Christmas present from Mom," she said with a delighted smile. Meanwhile, I was painting my own nails with $3 drugstore polish since I couldn't justify spending money on pleasures. About an hour later, Lily approaches me in the kitchen as I'm assisting Mom with the rolls. "So, Mom told me you've been struggling financially," she continues in a phony, concerned tone, loud enough for Mom to hear. I gazed at her as if she'd grown another head. "Struggling? Lily, I just paid your car payment last month." "Right. But Mom said you complained about money being tight when she asked for help with groceries." I had remarked that I was budgeting carefully due to the amount of money I'd been sending them, but I never complained. I simply wanted Mom to understand that I couldn't keep creating money out of thin air. I did not complain. I just said I can't. "Look, I get it," Lily says, stirring the gravy with a sense of superiority. "But perhaps it is time to acknowledge that some people's needs are more pressing than others. I have a child to think about. Lily, I have 2 children, and I've given you guys $25,000 this year." She genuinely rolled her eyes. "It is not as if you cannot afford it. You make about twice what Ryan does." She paused, then added with a smirk. "Besides, you chose to have children after your divorce." I hadn't planned for this. Hey, that comment struck me like a slap. Lily became pregnant by accident, but she had already been living rent-free with our parents for years. Her lack of planning was not my responsibility. Mom cleared her throat uncomfortably. "Girls, let's not argue on Christmas." Before I could react, Mom summoned everyone to dinner. I was furious, but I tried to remain composed for the sake of the children. "We all sat down," said Grace, and began eating. The ham was great, the sides were delicious, and the children were delighted. For about 20 minutes, I was able to enjoy Christmas supper. Everything was well until Mom began discussing New Year's preparations. "Lily and Ryan found this beautiful cabin rental up north," Mom exclaims, her eyes light up. "It'll be such a nice family getaway right on the lake with a hot tub and everything." "That sounds expensive," I observed, trying to maintain a neutral tone while carving my daughter's ham. "Oh, it is," Lily exclaims joyfully. "But Mom and Dad are assisting us with it. They thought we deserved a proper vacation given the year we'd experienced." I placed my fork gently. "Are they paying for your vacation?" "We're all pitching in," Dad answers quickly, avoiding my gaze. "It's going to be a family trip." My stomach sank. "All of us?" I asked. "Am I invited?" The silence was terrible. Lily and Mom exchanged glances, and Ryan got very engaged in his mashed potatoes. My children looked up from their plates, sensing the tension. "Well," Mom explains slowly. "The cabin only sleeps 6. With Lily's family and ourselves, it's already filled." I felt like I had been hit in the stomach. "So you're paying for a family vacation that excludes half of the family?" "It's not like that," Lily adds, waving her hand dismissively. "You can afford your own trip." "We cannot. Besides, you're usually so busy at work. You probably wouldn't have fun anyway." That's when something within me snapped. I can afford my own vacations because I don't spend all my money bailing out my parents and buying my sister new cars. "Don't be dramatic," Mom says as her face flushes. "We appreciate your help, but..." "But what?" "But Lily deserves a trip more than my children need to see their grandparents. But Lily deserves a cabin rental more than my children deserve new sneakers that aren't from Walmart." My daughter stared at me, puzzled. She had no idea that I had been buying at Walmart for their clothes while sending hundreds of dollars per month to maintain Lily in Target outfits. "That's enough," Dad replies firmly, pointing his fork at me. "This is Christmas dinner. You are being inappropriate." "You're correct. It's Christmas supper. The Christmas meal, I brought the ham, created 3 dishes, and bought gifts for everyone, while you guys plan vacations I'm not invited to with money I helped you save by paying your mortgage. Lily tosses her napkin down forcefully. God, you're incredibly selfish. Not everything is about you. Can you please be happy for me for once? Selfish? I've given you $25,000 this year. Nobody asked you to, Lily exclaims, rising from the table. You actually did. You all did. Every month. For 4 years. Lily needs money for childcare. Lily needs a car. Lily needs groceries. Lily needs. Mom stands up, her face flushed from rage and embarrassment. I think you should calm down. You are ruining Christmas for everyone. She was correct about that. Lily's daughter was weeping, and my children were afraid, but I was too far gone to stop. Am I ruining Christmas? I'm not the one who organizes family holidays that exclude half of the family while living rent-free in someone else's home. That's it, Mom exclaimed. You're being harsh and jealous. Lily has been through enough this year without you hitting her at Christmas. Has Lily been through enough? What else has Lily done besides sit in your house rent-free while I pay all of her bills? What aspects of her life have been particularly difficult? Lily began crying loudly. You don't understand what it's like being a single mom. I am a single mother. I'm a single mother who works full-time and still supports half of this family. That's when Mom lost it. She began yelling about how ungrateful I was, how I was making Lily unhappy, how I was being dramatic and selfish, and how I was destroying Christmas for everyone. Dad stepped in, stating I was embarrassing them in front of the kids and should apologize. Throughout it all, Lily sat there with a contented grin, as if she was enjoying the performance. My son tugged at my sleeve. Can we go home now, Mom? His voice was low and terrified. That devastated my heart more than anything. Finally, Mom gestures to the door, her fingers quivering with wrath. If you're going to behave like this, perhaps you should go. Lily has gone through enough this year without you abusing her at Christmas. She deserves more than this jealousy. Get out, Mom urges, her voice icy. Just get out. I looked around the table once again. Dad nodded in accord. Lily was crying crocodile tears as she comforted her daughter. Ryan was still avoiding eye contact. My children were gathering their coats, preparing to flee. Are you really choosing her above your own grandchildren this Christmas? We're choosing the person who isn't throwing a tantrum at the dinner table, the mother said. She walked up and opened the front door for us. She stood there, holding it open, as my children and I collected our jackets and gifts. The cold December air surged in, causing everyone to shudder. I hope you're happy now, Lily said as we left. You ruined Christmas for everyone. Mom slammed the door behind us hard enough to rattle the windows. I stood on their front porch for a moment, holding my children's hands while they grieved, listening to muffled voices within carry on the conversation without us. Through the window, I could see Mom hugging Lily and Dad clearing our dishes from the table as if we hadn't been there. I bundled the kids into the car and drove around for 20 minutes as they wailed in the back seat, wondering why Grandma was so mean and whether we'd ever see them again. Finally, I stopped in a McDonald's parking lot and made a decision. I opened my banking app and canceled all automatic payments to my parents. The mortgage payment due on January 5th has been canceled. Dad's recurrent medical payment was terminated. The $350 monthly grocery stipend I had been sending was gone. I had set up an emergency fund for them, but it was now closed. Then I called their bank and requested that I be removed from their account's emergency contact list. I called their mortgage company and requested that my name be removed from the list of people allowed to make payments on their behalf. I called their utilities companies and canceled my credit card as a backup payment. We proceeded to McDonald's for Christmas dinner, Happy Meals and apple pies, while my kids stopped sobbing and began chatting about the gifts they received. My daughter hugged me and said, "Mom, it's okay. At least we're together." That nearly made me cry again. My phone started ringing 1 hour later. First it was Dad. "Honey, your mother is upset." She did not mean what she said. You know how she reacts when Lily cries. I instructed him to call me back when they were ready to apologize to my children for ruining their Christmas and kicking them out of their grandparents' home. Then Mom called. "You are overreacting. Come back and we'll discuss this. Lily feels horrible." I told her I was finished talking, I was finished paying, and I was done pretending that Lily's wants were more important than my children's dignity. Then Lily called, instantly crying and apologizing. She suddenly apologized. Suddenly she realized how difficult things must be for me. She suddenly wanted to make things right. "I didn't mean for this to happen," she wailed over the phone. "I just wanted everyone to get along." "You wanted everyone to get along by making sure I knew I wasn't invited to the family vacation. It was not personal. The cabin was only small." "Everything about this is personal, Lily. You've made it personal by treating me as a bank account rather than your sister. It's too late to apologize. It's too late for explanations. Too late for everything." The true catastrophe began 4 days later, when their mortgage payment bounced. Mom called, weeping. "We are going to lose our house. How could you do this to us? Lily's daughter will become homeless. The same way you threw my children out on Christmas. Easily. But we have nowhere else to go, and the cabin has already been paid for. We spent the money from the Christmas fund." "What about the Christmas fund?" "The money I'd been putting aside all year, thinking it was for family gifts. You used it to pay for a vacation that I was not invited to. Lily can obtain a job. Ryan can work full-time rather than part-time. You can acquire a job. Dad can work full-time. There are dozens of methods that do not require my money. However, Lily is battling with postpartum depression. She can't work. Lily's daughter is 3 years old. If she still has postpartum depression, she should seek professional assistance rather than a holiday cabin. You're destroying this family." "I am not destroying anything. I'm simply not funding it anymore." The calls lasted for days. Each family member took turns trying various ways. Dad attempted to guilt-trip me about Lily's daughter, as if I hadn't been indirectly supporting her for years. Lily sent lengthy texts explaining how she had learned her lesson and would be appreciative. Mom alternated between crying and yelling, occasionally calling me 5 times in one day. But the one that truly touched me was when Lily texted, "I hope you're happy. My daughter will be homeless due to your selfishness." That crossed a line I didn't even realize I had. I screenshotted the text and shared it to the family group chat, which included all of my aunts, uncles and cousins, with the following message. "Lily believes I'm selfish for not paying her rent anymore. Here's a breakdown of how much I spent this year to keep everyone housed, fed and transported." Then I listed everything. Every payment, every emergency, and every time I canceled plans with my own children because someone in the family need money. I couldn't afford my son's summer camp since Lily required daycare money. I wore the same winter suit for 3 years, because my father needed money for medical bills. I informed my kid that we couldn't afford dance classes since the family needed groceries. I wrote about a family vacation that I wasn't invited to, but paid for with money I donated. Lily had manicures while I did my own nails. She bought new clothes while my children wore hand-me-downs. The group chat was silent for an hour. Then my Uncle Mark was the first to answer. "Holy Lauren, I had no idea." My Aunt Karen asked, $25,000 in 1 year. That's more than I make in 6 months. My cousin Ethan said, "Lily, what the hell is wrong with you? How do you ask someone for money but not invite them on vacation?" My grandma Margaret, who rarely uses technology but had someone read the messages for her, stated, "I am embarrassed of all of you. That girl gave you everything, and you threw her babies away on Christmas." Suddenly the entire family understood exactly what had happened. They were aware that I had been supporting 4 other adults and a child while raising my own children alone. They were aware of the cabin vacation to which I had not been invited, despite paying the family's excursion. They knew Lily had been living rent-free while I worked extra hours to cover her parents' mortgage. My parents' expectations were not met when the family began to take sides. My Uncle Mark called my father directly that night. I know because Dad called me later, enraged. "Your uncle thinks I'm a bad father. He replied I should be ashamed of myself for kicking you out on Christmas after all you've done." My Aunt Karen called my mother. "Lily is an adult woman with a college degree. Why doesn't she work? Why does Lauren pay for everything while her own children suffer without?" My grandma Margaret had someone drive her to my parents' home. At the age of 86, she stepped up uninvited to tear into everyone. "You should feel embarrassed of yourselves. That girl has given you everything, and you threw her babies away on Christmas for some lazy child who won't work." Within a week, the entire extended family had turned against my parents and Lily. The comments on Lily's Facebook post ranged from supportive to cruel. "Get a job. Stop mooching off your sister. Pathetic that a 31-year-old woman can't support herself." Lily made her profile private, then erased it completely after family members began messaging her personally. My cousin's wife, whom I barely knew, wrote me a private message. I didn't realize what you were going through. If you ever need someone to keep your kids so you can take a break, please let me know. What your family did was unforgivable. Meanwhile, my folks were scurrying. They would be unable to make their home payments without my monthly donations. They attempted to obtain a loan, but their reputation was tarnished from years of late payments and financial mismanagement, which was paradoxically caused by relying on my money, rather than handling their own finances correctly. They attempted to persuade Lily and Ryan to contribute, but they only earned approximately $2,000 per month from their part-time jobs combined. Lily had never learned to budget because her large spending were usually covered by someone else. At 64, Dad returned to full-time work, accepting a physically demanding position at a warehouse that paid more than the hardware store. Mom obtained a job at a grocery shop, her first in 5 years. Lily eventually acquired a full-time job at a contact center, and Ryan began working in construction, but it was too little, too late. They lost their house in April. Lily, Ryan and their kid moved in with Ryan's parents, who reside in a small 2-bedroom apartment, and were not pleased with the arrangement. Ryan's mother called me upset. Your sister believes she can simply move in here with her drama and children. She has never paid rent in her life. My parents moved into a small rental house across town, which costs more per month than their previous mortgage. The rental is ancient and tiny, unlike the 4-bedroom house they had owned for 22 years. The entire family is suddenly working full-time for the first time in years, barely making ends meet, stressed out, and constantly bickering about money. And me? I used the money I would have spent on their mortgage to take my kids to Disney World during the summer. We slept in a fancy hotel, ate at sit-down restaurants, and bought the ridiculously expensive souvenirs without me worrying about the cost. My daughter sobbed happy tears when she met Elsa. My son rode Space Mountain 7 times in a row because we now obtained fast passes, which I could afford. We created memories rather than simply paying other people's expenses. We're going on a genuine vacation this summer, spending a week at a lake house with my college mates and their families. My children will get to play with other children. I'll be able to relax with other grown-ups, and no one will ask for money. My children have new outfits that are not from Walmart. My daughter is taking piano lessons and is quite skilled. My son joined a traveling soccer team and scored 4 goals in his first match. I'm actually saving money for their education expenses, rather than supporting 4 grown individuals who could work, but decided not to. The guilt trips continue, but they are becoming weaker. It's hard to claim that I'm selfish when everyone can see that my parents and Lily are all working and doing well. It turns out they didn't really need my money. They were just happy to accept it. I receive updates from family members, and they make me feel vindicated rather than guilty. Lily and Ryan despise living with his parents. His mother has Lily clean the bathroom and wash the dishes, which she never had to do at my parents' house because Mom did everything. They're desperately trying to save money to move out, but they keep spending it on frivolous stuff like DoorDash and new clothes since they never learned to budget well. My parents' rental home is modest and out of date, but they are able to make payments now that they both work full-time. Dad is often complaining about his back, but he manages. Mom seems to be happier at work. She's making friends with her co-workers and has something to do aside than enabling Lily. Dad's back troubles flared up as a result of his warehouse job, but instead of calling me for medical bills, he checked his insurance and discovered that the majority of them were covered. It's amazing what occurs when you strive to fix problems rather than simply asking others to pay for them. Mom keeps asking family members to talk sense into me, but no one listens anymore. Even my grandmother Margaret admonished her. You made your bed when you threw those kids out on Christmas. Now lie in it. My Uncle Mark has been one of my strongest supporters. He calls me every few weeks to check in and expresses his pride that I have finally stood up for myself. I wish I'd known what was happening sooner, he jokes. I would have talked sense into them years ago. Lily took a different strategy last month. She sent me a lengthy handwritten note about how she has matured as a person and learned to value family more. She's been going to therapy through her employment insurance. Look at that, and admits she took me for granted. She wants to restore our relationship and start over. The letter was truly well written and appeared genuine. She mentioned how she now realizes how difficult it must have been for me to work full-time and help everyone else. She admitted that she had been selfish and entitled. She even apologized for the Christmas dinner event directly. I was almost moved by that. Almost. Then I read the final paragraph. I know I have no right to ask for anything after how I've treated you, but Ryan's parents have threatened to kick us out if we don't pay the first month's rent and a deposit on a new apartment. It costs a total of $24,000. I would not ask, but I don't have anyone else to turn to, and I can't leave my kid homeless. I'll repay you after we've settled. I promise. I threw away the letter before finishing it. 1 month ago, I received a call from Mom that clearly demonstrated how little they had learnt. Lily and Ryan had broken up. Apparently the stress of living with his parents and working full-time for the first time in years had ruined their relationship. Lily had moved back in with our parents and her children, and their small rental home was congested and chaotic. Dad's warehouse job was hurting his back, and Mom was struggling to keep up with her grocery store shifts because she was also watching Lily's daughter throughout the day. Lily worked at a call center throughout the day and was unable to afford daycare. "We need help," Mom stated, her voice exhausted and despondent. "Just temporary, just until Lily gets back on her feet and finds someone to watch her daughter." How many times have I heard temporary during the last 4 years? This is different. We have learned our lesson. Lily is now working. She's trying. Has she? Because it sounds like Lily is back where she started, living with you and relying on others to solve her problems. She is going through a divorce, she needs family support, and her daughter requires stability. She received $25,000 in help from her family. You threw away that support by prioritizing a vacation over your grandchildren's Christmas. Mom began crying. I was mistaken. We were all mistaken. Please think about Lily's daughter. She does not deserve this. She's just an innocent little girl. That nearly got me. Almost. But then I remembered my own children's expressions when they were thrown out on Christmas, and I steeled myself. Lily's daughter deserves a mother who works to support her, rather than one who expects others to pay for everything. Lily's daughter deserves stability, which means Lily must mature and establish it for herself, rather than constantly moving back in with her parents when life becomes tough. So, is that it? Are you going to let us lose everything? You've already lost everything, Mom. You lost it when you decided that Lily's comfort came before my children's dignity. The house was basically stuff. This family was what was important, and you threw it away for a holiday rental. I hung up and haven't answered their calls since. However, the story does not finish there because life continues. 3 weeks later, I received a message from Ryan's mother. Lily was dismissed from her call center job after missing too many days. Apparently, she had been phoning in sick whenever her daughter was fussing, or she was bored of being on her phone late at night. Without an income, Lily was unable to contribute to my parents' rent, and they were once again struggling. But this time, there was no one to call for assistance. The extended family had made it obvious that they were not going to tolerate Lily's actions, and I had cut off all financial support. My parents both took on extra shifts. Mom began working 6 days a week at the grocery store. Dad worked overtime in the warehouse despite his back difficulties. Lily eventually obtained another employment, this time at a fast food restaurant, because her call center experience didn't qualify her for a better position. After getting dismissed, the 3 adults and a 3-year-old living in a small 2-bedroom rented property were disorganized and stressed. My parents were fatigued from working long hours and caring for a toddler. Lily was furious about having to work a job she thought was beneath her. Everyone was continuously on edge. Meanwhile, my children and I were thriving. My daughter's piano teacher believes she has great talent and wants her to perform in a recital next month. My son's soccer team advanced to the regional championships. I was promoted at work, in part because I could work more hours without worrying about family emergencies. I began seeing someone, a beautiful guy I met through my son's soccer team. He's also a single dad. When I told him about my family situation, he was surprised. You supported so many people while raising 2 children on your own? How did you even do that? When I recounted the favoritism dynamic and how everything ended, he shook his head. My parents would never pick between their children in that way. And putting your children away on Christmas? What kind of grandparent would do that? He's correct. What kind of grandparents would choose their adult daughter's comfort over their grandchildren's feelings? What type of parents kick their children out of the house on Christmas because their mother dared to challenge their exclusion from a family holiday? My children, particularly my daughter, occasionally ask about their grandparents. She is more compassionate and forgiving than I am. I tell her the truth in an age-appropriate manner. Grandma and Grandpa made certain decisions that damaged our feelings. And until they apologize and demonstrate that they have changed, we need some space. It breaks my heart, but I refuse to teach my children that they should endure being mistreated by those who are supposed to love them. I refuse to teach kids that certain people's needs are more important than others because of partiality rather than true circumstances. My daughter requested last week whether we might send Grandma a birthday card. I told her we could build one, but we'd keep it for now, and maybe send it later when things improved. She created a picture of our family with a rainbow over it, and added, "I hope everyone can be happy again someday." I hope so, dear. However, happiness based on one individual sacrificing all for everyone else's satisfaction is not true happiness. It's just a nice deception that unravels the moment the sacrificing individual says no. The rest of the family has rallied around me and my children in ways that have shown me what strong family ties look like. We had a great time celebrating Easter with my Uncle Mark's family. There's no drama, no one asking for money, just wonderful meals and people who genuinely care about each other. His wife made sure my children received Easter baskets, and their children included me in all of the games, without prodding. My cousin Ethan's kids are the same age as mine, and they've already started arranging summer activities together. They've invited us to join their family camping trip in August. My Aunt Karen invited us to her beach cottage in July. My Grandma Margaret sends my children notes and tiny presents as a token of her admiration for my ability to advocate for myself. This is what family should feel like: reciprocal, respectful, and founded on love rather than obligation or exploitation. The most telling occasion occurred last month, when my kid required emergency dental treatment following a skateboard accident. It was going to cost $900 out of pocket, after insurance. And for the first time in years, I wasn't concerned about the cost. I had the money in my emergency fund, which was previously utilized to cover my parents' crises rather than my own. When I conveyed this to my Uncle Mark, he remarked something that really resonated with me. "That's what that money was supposed to be for all along. Your kids' emergencies, not everyone else's convenience." He's correct. That $25,000 should have been used to support my children's activities, emergency funds, and future plans. Instead, money funded my parents' unwillingness to say no to Lily, as well as Lily's refusal to mature and care for herself. I'm not sure whether my parents and Lily will ever completely realize what they lost. I am not sure if they will ever be willing to do the work required to regain trust. But I know I'm not going to risk my children's safety or my own financial security by waiting for them to figure it out. For the first time in 4 years, I'm planning for my future rather than supporting others' present. My children are thriving. I'm saving money and creating a life for myself rather than just dealing with everyone else's problems. The most recent update came from my grandmother last week. Lily lost her fast food job due to attendance concerns and is now unemployed. My parents are considering moving to a smaller apartment because they cannot pay the rental without Lily's help with expenditures. Instead of phoning me, they are trying to solve an issue. Dad is considering disability compensation for his back difficulties. Mom is thinking about acquiring a second part-time job. Lily is apparently looking for a job, but considering her track record, I'm not optimistic. The fact that they are not phoning me for rescue money demonstrates that they can work things out when they need to. They simply opted not to for years since it was easier to contact me. This Christmas, we'll be visiting my Uncle Mark's place. The kids are all quite enthusiastic. My Aunt Karen is preparing her famous cookies, and my grandmother Margaret will bring her famed Christmas morning casserole. My new partner is also invited, and my children are delighted to introduce him to the family that really matters. It will be smaller than the Christmases I grew up with, but it will be full of people who want us there, people who value what we offer to the table rather than take it for granted. People who would never abandon children on Christmas for any reason. My daughter asked me yesterday if I thought Grandma and Grandpa would be unhappy without us for Christmas. I honestly informed her that I didn't know, but that people who make painful choices must live with the repercussions of those decisions. Maybe they'll learn to make better choices, she hoped. Perhaps they will, sweetie. But until then, we'll concentrate on the family that already knows how to make good decisions. The family that prioritizes love over convenience, respect over exploitation, and children's well-being above adult comfort. And that is worth more than $25,000 any day. The last irony. I was promoted last month and received a big raise. For the first time in years, I had actual disposable income. Money that is not set aside for bills, emergencies, or other people's issues. I'm using some of it to take my children on their summer vacation. Some of it is going towards their education money. Some of it is going toward piano lessons, soccer fees, and other typical children's activities that I couldn't afford when I was supporting half the family. And some of it is going into my personal emergency fund, since I learned the hard way that you can't take care of others until you take care of yourself first. My family taught me the lesson, but not in the way they intended.